And I'm going to admit 88 people.
Welcome, everyone. It's 10 a.m. We'll get started in a few minutes. We're going to wait for a few more folks to join us. So please be patient and we'll be back in a couple minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Supposed to recognize it.
No, because there's a lot of people statewide on this.
If you could all please mute yourself while we're waiting to begin, that'd be great. Thank you.
You going on with the video?
So it's 10:02. How many folks do we have on board? Todd,
120.
120. Should we give it a few more minutes or?
I think you're ready to start recording this. So I will go ahead and go.
All right, very good. So welcome, everyone. I'm Janine Bishop, Sustainable Materials Recovery Grant Program Manager. The agenda for our meeting today is as follows. I will discuss the changes to RDP and why we implemented them. We will then hear from Kathy Dudnoff. Kathy will talk about the notification of biorecycle policy. And then we will break for questions, and we'll actually take a maybe 5 or 10 minute break, depending on the time. And then we will hear from Wilfred Mabar. Will talk about the actual changes to the RDP criteria. I do want to add that this meeting is primarily to discuss the changes to RDP for the spring 22 grant round. We will have our usual SMRP or Sustainable Material Recovery Program webinar when we announce the grants. We will also be working on grant guidelines, and we'll distribute the RDP section as soon as completed. That is currently in the works. And the guidelines will provide more detail about some of the things we're talking today, some of the changes and the requirements. There are also 2 attachments today with this presentation, the RDP worksheet and the red line copy of the RDP worksheet that shows the changes, the eliminations, the revisions, the additions. Also want to thank Todd Kep, who is running the presentation behind the scenes, and Janice Perret, who will be fielding questions for us today. So before we dig in, I'd like to review some of the technological aspects for those of you who are not familiar with Zoom. So first of all, number 1 is mute. The mute button is the first here on the bar on your left, the left of the selections. And we would like you all to mute yourself during the presentation. We may, if you would like to ask your question in person, you can unmute yourself, but not until that time. Start the video if you'd like to be visible. Feel free to keep your video on. Participants, we ask that you rename yourself. A lot of you may have your name already along with your video, but if you do not, what you do is you click on participants and you're able to enter your name, and if you could enter where you're from, that would be helpful as well. 4th is the chat feature. That is where we would like you to respond, or I'm sorry, to ask your questions. You can also see what other questions are being asked, and we will periodically put attachments and maybe some links in the chat box. 5, recording. Just so that you all know, we are recording this presentation, and we will be sharing with all sometime within the next couple of weeks. Now, the reactions button, that is where you can raise your hand. You can give us a thumbs up, thumbs down. You can tell us what you're feeling with the reactions button. So let's get started. So I'm going to start with the Solid Waste Master Plan. This plan establishes the Commonwealth policy framework for reducing and managing solid waste that is generated, reused, recycled, or disposed by Massachusetts residents and businesses. This plan dictates everything we do in the waste reduction branch. MassDEP's 2010-2020 Solid Waste Master Plan goal was to reduce solid waste disposal by 30% by 2020. We did not meet this goal. There are many contributing variables, too much to get into for this presentation, but you can read about it in the most recent Solid Waste Master Plan. Our waste reduction goal for 2030 is to reduce disposal again by 30%. So we need to do all we can do to reduce solid waste. I've included a link to the Solid Waste Master Plan in this slide for those who are interested in reading more detail. So in considering how the municipal waste reduction branch can contribute to waste reduction, I took a look at the municipal trash numbers over the years. These are from the recycling and solid waste surveys that are submitted by municipalities. We get a good number of surveys in during the year. So when you look at these numbers, you can see that we need to take action. Residential trash decreased from 2012 to 2017, but since then it has grown. You know, despite our many grant offerings to contribute to increasing recycling and decreasing trash, the trash tonnage from municipalities is going up each year. So when looking at our grants, in particular our RDP, recycling dividends and small scale, it was clear that we were missing some opportunities with those grants. So a little bit of the history of RDP for those of you who may not be aware. We introduced RDP in 2014 with the goal of solid waste reduction by financially rewarding municipalities that had best practices programs in place for waste reduction and increasing recycling. It's one of our SMRP grants. It falls under the Sustainable Material Recovery Program, and it's funded through the Waste to Energy Credit Program. And based on a point system, the last 4 years, we've had a minimum of 8 points with a 26-point maximum. It's been an extremely popular program. We've ramped up the eligibility over the years to further incentivize waste reduction. There have been many changes. We increased points, the minimum points from 6 to 8 in 2019. Now, for the last 3 years, the program and the criteria have remained the same. We award between 2,100 and over 1,000 per year. And altogether, we have awarded over 17 million since the start of the program. And one of the most popular reasons for folks loving this program is that the funds are rolling over. They roll over into the following year. And again, these funds are to be invested in waste reduction programs. So the 17 million out there for municipalities to utilize for this purpose. Now, small scale initiatives, this has always been open for many, many years to both municipalities and regional groups. Since RDP was implemented, small scale is always thought of kind of as a consolation prize. If a municipality could not get into RDP because of the required point minimum, a small scale grant was the alternative. It's kind of a grant that all gets as long as they meet the very minimum requirements. And the funding level is between 500 and 2,000 with very basic eligibility requirements. And that money must be spent within the fiscal year, which can be challenging, believe it or not. We actually have folks that don't spend their small scale and forfeit the funds. We do, for small scale funding or spending, it's the same as the RDP spending. So this is a very busy slide. I don't expect you to take much from it. It kind of gives the history over the years of RDP. But what I want you to focus on is the last 2 columns. We're showing 2013, which was pre-RDP, to the first 4 years of RDP awarded. And you can see the increase in RDP applications and award amounts over the years. First year, 2014, we started with 358 in RDP, and by 2017, we were up to 2.2 million. And at the same token, the small scale grant numbers reduced while RDP increased. And this shows the last 4 years of RDP. And while 2018, 2019, there were both increases in RDP and decreases in small scale from 19, 20, 21, things are pretty stagnant, not a lot of growth. Same number of RDP applicants and awardees. So we need to do something to shake things up. So we looked at point fluctuation for those municipalities earning RDP and could see over the last 4 years that most municipalities have not increased their points earned. If you look at this chart, most have had 0 point fluctuation. I mean, there are some that earn less, very, very few, and a few that have earned more, but for the most part, the majority are staying pretty stagnant. Notice the red line. Red is 2018 to 2019. And what that shows is the year that we increased the minimum points from 6 to 8. So when there was incentive to increase points, many municipalities met that challenge. This slide provides data for Abington through AIR, and it shows the RDP point progression over the years. I know it's really tough to see the numbers. When we distribute this, you'll be able to take a closer look. But it shows while some municipalities are making progress, earning more points, most are stagnant or even earning less. There are 9 that have decreased their points or stayed the same, and 5 that have shown increases. Our intent for RDP was to provide incentives and challenges to motivate municipalities to earn more points over time. And so we need to provide some more motivation. And this is Malden through Middleborough, and I'm seeing the same thing. In fact, 12 municipalities that have decreased points or stayed the same, and 3 that have increased. And these charts were created for all municipalities, and I just randomly selected two groups, but they all pretty much showed the same. So after looking at all of this, I met with my boss, Brooke Nash, the branch chief for the Municipal Waste Reduction Branch, and others, the MAX and the municipal branch folks. And we realized we needed to come up with a game plan, a change to RDP. So we brought the information to the division director, Greg Cooper, and the deputy division director, John Fisher, and we stressed the urgency to make changes, and they agreed with the caveat that we stay within the budget. So why the change? Well, the number of small scale awardees has dropped over the years. We still had 36 municipalities in the last 2 years that were awarded small scale and that are not involved in the RDP program. We had 84 municipalities that didn't apply for either small scale or RDP. So we needed to rethink RDP to include all municipalities. And we also needed to look a little more closely at the 12 criteria in RDP to see how points earned related to waste reduction. With small scale, there was really no incentive to reduce waste. No accountability on the part of the municipalities that applied. And we felt we were losing the opportunity for waste reduction from these municipalities. Both the 32 that have received small scale the last 2 years and the 84 that don't apply for anything. When all municipalities can be eligible. Recycling dividends, we were finding that it was difficult for some municipalities to qualify. It was tough for some of them to remain in the program. So we figure make it available. We're providing incentive for waste reduction for all. We were seeing stagnation in points earned. And if we opened it up to all, we'd be closer to our overall goal of reducing waste. So what we proposed was to drop the minimum number of points from 8 to 1 to allow all municipalities into RDP. So in the spring of 22, which is our next grant round, municipalities will no longer be eligible to apply for small scale. Small scale will be available to regional groups only. So municipalities that have not been able to qualify for RDP in the past are thrilled with this upcoming change. I've heard from a bunch of them. There may be a few disappointed because the bar was really low. Easy to get into small scale, easy money, but with the requirement of 1 point, a municipality will have to have some accountability to be eligible for RDP. Municipalities will no longer be eligible. We'll stick with the same spending as RDP for the regional groups, and as long as the minimum requirements that all applicants will receive. So for recycling dividends, we kept 12 criteria with the categories within each criteria ranging from 1 to 5 points. 5 points is new. The 4 points was the most we awarded for a category. And we examined each criteria very closely to determine relationship between points earned and reduced waste. And we also determined 2 funding levels. Basic for those earning 1 to 9 points, and advanced for those who earn 10 or more points. We just did not have the budget to award all at the advanced level. So I will add that a select group of EJ, environmental justice communities, will earn funding at the advanced level regardless of points. And we have a preliminary list of who those municipalities are, but I'm working with Denise Simpson, our environmental justice coordinator, to finalize that list. And we will have a final list in the grant guidelines when we distribute them. So point values are not only based, for those of you familiar with the program, on advanced level of the number of points, basic or advanced, but also on the number of municipalities served by the municipal trash program. We've done it that way from the beginning, so that will not change. The only thing that does change is the two levels. For those municipalities earning 1 to 9, they will earn 70% of what the point value is for those earning 10 points or more. We did financial projections. We completed scenarios for many different values but we had to stay within a budget. So we determined for 1 to 9 points, a value 30% less than current would work best. The advanced level shows the values from past years, from the past 3 years at least. And, we upped the number of points required to earn this level of funding under advanced from 8 points to 9 points. That'll push those municipalities that have earned 8 to 9 points over the last few years to work a little harder to implement additional waste reduction measures. And if they're not able to right away, the first year anyway, next spring, they'll still be eligible under the basic level funding and have time to invest in their programs to reach the advanced level. So we looked at solid waste reduction points earned in relation to actual waste disposed by municipalities participating in RDP, and found that those not claiming any points in the solid waste reduction category, or those without trash limits, were disposing about the same amount of trash as those earning 2 points for a 64-gallon trash limit. In fact, in 2019, those without a trash limit disposed of less than those with a 64-gallon limit. What we're showing here is 2019 in the light blue and 2020 in the dark blue. And you can see, the first group shows those who did not claim this point in solid waste, in the solid waste reduction category. So no trash limits. And then next we moved on, the second group shows the 64-gallon cart. And, and as we expected, those claiming points for a full pay-as-you-throw program, all trash and pay-as-you-throw bags, had the lowest number for average pounds per year for trash disposed. And we made some changes to that criteria that Wilfred will talk about when he reviews the criteria change. This slide here is similar to the last slide, but it shows 2021. It shows the most recent RDP solid waste reduction category as compared to 2020 recycling and solid waste data, because we do not have the 2021 numbers yet, but pretty much the same results. Those with 64 gallon limit, pretty much on target with no trash limit. And those with pay as you throw, showing pretty low figures. And I'm also showing here the pounds per household, average pounds per household of recycling, and those with no trash limits of less, and those with full pay as you throw are showing a higher level. You know, pretty close, but still you can see full pay as you throw definitely has more solid waste, recycling pounds per year. Now, we looked at bulky waste tonnages for those that report separate bulky tonnages and compared the average yearly tonnage between those who charge a fee and those who do not. Now, again, this is just for those who separate the bulky and weigh the bulky and have a separate bulky figure. It's not added in with their residential trash. So those who charge a fee, a lot less bulky waste is disposed. Those who have unlimited bulky disposal, I should say, show a lot more tonnage. And this is average tonnage per municipality. And Wilfred will tell you more about a change we made to the bulky waste criteria that will help municipalities work up to charging a fee. And you know, some munis don't like to charge a fee. They like to allow a few bulky items. And we've decided to add another option under the bulky waste criteria to address that. We also looked at textile tonnage for those who claim the textile point versus those who do not. And clearly those municipalities that promote textile recovery collect much more tonnage. This is average tons per municipality in 2019 to 2021. And so with the upcoming textile waste ban, we applied incentive to the revised criteria to get more education and outreach programs out there for textile recovery. Okay, so what this slide shows is the number of variables or the number of data points that we reviewed when evaluating RDP. I want just to remind you all to be sure to pay close attention to what we require when we're asking for documentation. There were all in all 1,713 data points for us to review and to confirm. And we did not have the time to reach out if the wrong attachment was attached or if an incorrect web link. And some municipalities lost points as a result of this. And we don't want that to happen next year. So please just pay close attention to what we ask for when completing your RDP application. And this is my last slide. You'll hear more about these requirements from Kathy Dudnoff. The first two items, the recycling and solid waste survey and the RDP spending report, those items have always been due by February 15th. And in fact, their grant requirements, RETRAC will not permit a municipal applicant to file a grant request without having these applications filed through RETRAC. And we get most of them before February 15th. The problem is the ones that we receive afterwards. We use the recycling and solid waste surveys as a means to verify a lot of the criteria claimed in RDP. And we have to conduct 2 rounds of QA/QC, and it holds up the review process, and things will be a lot more efficient if we have everything on in a timely manner. So the last item is the notification of buy recycle policy. I do have to let you know that we gave a lot of thought to this one. The notification of buy recycle policy causes a lot of problems for some municipalities. You know, we toyed with the idea of eliminating this requirement altogether just because of the problems folks have with this, but we decided it was just way too important to not require that municipalities both have a recycled content purchasing policy and that they let municipal departments know about that policy. We're asking for it early, so in the hopes that the policy will have more meaning to all when submitted were not submitted as a last minute grant requirement. Collecting, protecting, and providing recycled content feedstock is the end result of all the work we do. And we just feel it's too important to not require it. So with that, I will hand the floor to Kathy Dudnoff. Kathy manages a couple of our grant programs, works with Recycle Smart municipal data, and handles the notification of by recycle policy for our grant programs. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Janine, and hi, everyone. Oh, Todd, you're so quick. All right, thank you, Todd. So my name is Kathy Dudnoff. I'm an environmental analyst with the Municipal Waste Reduction Branch, and today I will be talking about the minimum eligibility requirements that you have to meet in order to be eligible for a SMRF grant. So before a municipality can apply for any of the grants, you have to submit what we call
Kathy seems to be muted.
Yep.
Okay, sorry, I will start over. Before a municipality can apply for one of the grants, you have to submit what we call the Certification of Minimum Eligibility Criteria form. This form can be found on ReTrack, and if you're not sure what ReTrack is, it's the online platform that we use for all grant applications and surveys. Every municipality already has an account, and if you would ever like to check who your contact person is for ReTrack, you can just send me an email and I'll let you know. So the certification form, it confirms that you meet the 3 criteria that you see on screen. That you send out an annual notification of biorecycle policy, that you submit the last 2 years of recycling and solid waste surveys to meet the municipal recycling data reporting criteria, and that you confirm that all municipal buildings, including schools, have a recycling program to meet the 3rd one, recycling in practice. Today, I'm focusing on number 1, and our biorecycled requirement is twofold. So if you've applied for a grant before, that means you already have a biorecycle policy in place, which is the first part of that requirement. The second part is that you send a notification of that policy to department heads and staff. The notification is just an annual reminder that there's already a policy in place and that purchasing these items with recycled content is important. So to be clear, the annual notification, it's not the same as the actual policy itself. Instead, the notification should be the communication that's sent to staff, either as a memo or an email, as a reminder that the policy does exist and that purchasing these products can be beneficial. Next slide, Todd. Thank you. So these are the different requirements that the notification has to meet itself in order to be approved. First, it should be sent as an email or a memo. It must be dated within the fiscal year of the grants. So with the upcoming grant round being in fiscal year 2022, it could have been sent anytime after July 1st because we're currently in fiscal year 22. It must be sent to department heads and staff. Ideally, we would like to see the names or even the emails just as another point to check, but we will accept their department heads or their staff. It must be sent by one of the, someone who holds one of the positions that you see on screen or a position similar to it, as long as they have purchasing power within your municipality. It must have content that talks about the importance of buying products with recycled content. Examples of this includes, purchase these items to support our municipal recycling program or to support local recycling markets. And the reason that we ask for this is because not every muni attaches the policy when you send it to your staff. And even if you do, there's no guarantee that the staff takes an extra moment to read the policy and has any idea why it's important to look for these products. Just by adding 1 or 2 lines into the memo or the email ensures that whoever reads it can see and learn why these products is important. And if just 1 or 2 people come away from that email knowing what to look for and that they should purchase these items, then we're happy. Finally, this year, when you submit the notification, we do want you to include your policy as well. We keep these policies on files, and during the last grant round, noticed that we don't have them all, or at least we don't have the updated version if they've been updated recently. So when sending out your notification for the upcoming grants, please be sure to include your policy with it. Next slide. So I want to go over a notification that would be denied to just show you what to avoid. And this is one that I didn't approve for various reasons. But before I start, I just want to say and reiterate that the notification is a factor in your municipality's eligibility for a grant. If you don't send out a notification, you will be ineligible. If you send out a notification that doesn't meet the requirements that I've reviewed and you don't revise it in time, you will be ineligible for a grant. Last year, 264 municipalities applied for an RDP or a small scale grant. Out of those, 94 municipalities would have been denied the grant because the notification didn't meet the requirements. Either we received the wrong attachments, or it was sent to the wrong person or from the wrong person, and more. And this has been an issue for a couple of years. So that would have been 35% of applicants that would not have received the grant, which is a huge number. So let's look at what's wrong with this notification. First is the date. It was sent after the last fiscal year had ended, so that does not meet the requirements. It was sent to all, which is way too broad because we can't confirm who it's actually sent to. And the content in the body of the memo is just that one line. So we can't confirm that the policy was included with the original memo, or if anybody looked through at the policy. So it's missing that content that we asked for, which is just saying another line about why it's important to purchase items with recycled content. Next slide. So now that you know what to avoid, I want to talk about how to make sure your notification's approved right from the start. And this is a really great example of what we're looking for. First, it's dated March 29th, 2021, which was in the last fiscal year. It's sent to department heads and committees from the town administrator. And that one line that I have highlighted there, it's the content that we're looking for. So it says, our purchasing practice contributes to a healthier market for these materials, increasing demand and acceptance of more earth-friendly products. Just by saying that this purchasing contributes to a healthier market for the materials, it explains why, and that's exactly why what we're looking for. So if you include all of this different criteria, your notification will be approved and you don't have to worry about it. We do have examples on our SMRP webpage that you can take a look at for inspiration, or even just copy over a line or two to make sure that you meet the requirements. And I will send that link in the chat once I'm finished. Next slide. Okay, so now that I've reviewed what makes a good notification, I do have an update regarding the deadline for it, and Janine did touch on this before. We're now asking that you submit the notification by February 15th, 2022. So previously, the notification had to be attached to the certification form and submitted on retrack by the end of the grant deadline. However, if it's submitted late, it can lead to many delays, which impact your ability to complete and submit a grant application. If you submit the notification late and it's denied, until you revise it, your grant application is left in limbo. The deadline could pass and you'd be missing out on a grant. Last year, this could have happened to many municipalities. And to avoid that, we're asking for it early this year to get it out of the way, so you're not left scrambling around the deadline. And by sending it early in the year, we're hoping it can be a part of your New Year message with a new purchasing goal for the year. So the notification must be sent to me directly, electronically by February 15th. I will review it, approve it, or deny for whatever reason, and reach out to you for a revision. Once it's approved, I'll attach it to your certification form on retrack. And when the grants are open sometime in the spring, you'll see this form in draft mode, and you'll have to submit it after answering the other two questions that it asks. When you send in the notification early, you're going to be one step closer to having that form done. We did have a similar opportunity last year, and 45 municipalities took advantage of it, and we got positive feedback. Because when the notification was kind of out of sight, out of mind, you didn't have to worry about it a few months later when the grants actually opened. So if February 15th sounds familiar, Janine touched on this too, it's because it's when our annual recycling and solid waste survey and the RDP spending report is due. The survey and the spending report still must be submitted on retrack by that date. That hasn't changed. But if the notification, along with the survey and the spending report, are not submitted by February 15th, you run the risk of losing one RDP point. The reason why is because late surveys and late notifications impact how long it takes for the grants to be evaluated and awarded. We do several rounds of quality assurance and analysis on the data you submit in the survey. And this is to make sure that all info is as accurate as it can be, because it directly feeds into our evaluations for your applications. So for example, if this year you reported that there are 1,000 households serve trash in your municipality, but last year you reported 10,000, it's a huge problem and a huge difference that can directly impact how much money you would receive in RDP. This kind of error, it's usually a typo, but it's common. Luckily, it's flagged during our review and we can fix it before evaluation starts. However, there are many times when we're in the process of evaluating grant application after the deadline closes, and we need to double check the data only to find that there's none. As it turns out, the municipality submitted their survey late and the data never had the chance to be reviewed. Because of that, evaluations are put on hold and we have to evaluate or review the data. And sometimes that can take weeks. This delays not only that specific municipality's awards, but every municipality's awards. So by submitting the notification, the survey, and the spending report by February 15th, you'll be getting all of that kind of administrative work out of the way, and we'll be able to QA/QC that data on time and evaluate your applications in a timely manner. Failure to submit by that date can result in the loss of an RDP point, so please try to submit it on time. The survey and the spending report opened the first week of January, and again, if you need to check your retrack login, just let me know. And the notification can be sent to me anytime by the 15th. Next slide. So switching gears a little, after looking at the policies that we have on file, I found that 76% are over 20 years old, most of them adopted in the late 1990s. A lot has changed since then, and there are so many products today that you can purchase that have recycled content in them. But more than that, there are products that you can purchase that have a lower reduced impact on environmental health in general. Because of that, we're strongly encouraging municipalities to adopt environmentally preferred policies to encourage purchasing items not only with recycled content, but that are energy and water efficient or were manufactured through processes with less greenhouse gas emissions and more. DEP is currently working on EPP templates that we hope to have available in a few months, just so you can take a look at and kind of encourage the adoption of this kind of policy. Just so you know, this policy, as long as it addresses purchasing items with recycled content, it will be accepted for our requirement in place of a regular buy recycled policy. On screen are some of the options that are usually included in EPPs to give you an idea of what it would look like. At this time, I do want to mention that there's a NERC NMOA webinar coming up the first week of January, I think January 6th, and it's focused on recycled content mandates. And I recommend attending this webinar to get some more information about recycled content. And I do think it's a really great opportunity to learn more about why we think this is so important. And I will send a link in the chat shortly. Next slide. So that's all I have, and I know it was a lot. So I just want to remind everyone that these slides will be available once we send an email out to all registrants. Of course, if you have any questions, feel free to write my email address down and send them to me. If you want to run a draft of the notification by me first before you send it out, please do so. And of course, all final notifications must be sent to me by February 15th next year. And that's all I have. So thank you for your time.
Hey, Janine, there were some pretty important questions that came in. So maybe if Janice can read those off real quick before we get to Will, I think maybe we should address them. And you're on mute, by the way.
I'd like to hear questions now for either Kathy or for me, and then we will take a break if we have time before Will goes on.
Sorry, I can't see these now. There were some questions earlier on about if we knew contamination rate for communities with limited trash. Do we have any, do we get information on the solid waste survey about contamination rates in the recycling?
No, we don't. We do ask if there is a surcharge for contamination rates. We have asked for extensive recycling processing information for the last 2 years. And we are and we'll again for the 2021 survey. We're in the process of gathering that data together to distribute and share with municipalities, but it's just not ready at this point. But as far as contamination, we ask if there's a surcharge. We don't ask about rates.
Okay. And then there were a bunch of questions about how to get in touch with Kathy. So I just want to reiterate that her email is in the chat, kathy.dudnath@massdep.gov. And she is going to put in a link to the website she did that she was referencing. So you can take a look there. You can always email her directly if you have other questions. Then there was a question, will there be any grant funding available to assist municipalities with the mattress and textile waste bans taking effect in November 2022?
Yeah, we do not know what we will be offering for the rest of SMRP. We do know that recycling dividends and small scale for regional groups will be available. And there will be some funding for the rest of SMRP, but we just don't know at this point what we will have available for funding. So please stay tuned. And we'll let you all know as soon as we find out.
And then the last question, I think that Kathy kind of touched on this, but maybe you need to be more blunt and clear about it, Janine, which was we opened the presentation talking about how towns are not getting enough RDP points, but now we're talking about taking them away for not meeting this deadline. And I think this is based on how important this document is, but I wanted to give you a chance to explain the reasoning on why we would take a point away if we don't meet the deadline.
Okay, we're looking at using RDP to our advantage for efficiency. Most municipalities are able to get us the information, over half. Both the survey, the RDP spending report, it allows us to start our QA/QC. We want, so that's all already required, the December 15th deadline, and has been since the beginning of RDP. And we really—
February 15th?
Well, I'm sorry, what did I say?
December.
January, sorry, February 15th, yeah, and that's been the requirement for from the beginning, from 2014. And most municipalities can follow it. And we're asking the rest of them to follow that so that we can get grants reviewed and out the door a lot quicker than we've been able to. Now, as far as the notification of biorecycle policy, the 94 municipalities would have been cut had we followed what our bosses said. We had to kind of say, no, we obviously need to make a change to the notification of biorecycle policy. It's more of a last minute grant requirement. We even get policy notifications that say, please remember we have a policy. We need this for grant requirements. And then we find out there's not, that municipality doesn't even have a policy. We want it to be something meaningful. It's what's behind all of the work that we do in recycling raw materials for feedstock. So, or recyclable material for feedstock, sorry. So, we're hoping that all municipalities can adhere to these requirements. And yet we're sorry if you may lose a point, but we're kind of using a little bit of the stick for our advantage and to help us be more efficient and to have the policy be more meaningful. If it's distributed around the beginning of the year, or if you have one from the spring, it's not just a grant requirement. It's more meaningful.
Okay, last question, and just want to reiterate, somebody was confused about RDP spending. They said it needs to be needs to be used prior to 2/15 and
No.
rolling. Yeah, I want you to reiterate.
Yeah, RDP funds are rolling. They roll over into the next year. That's why we recommended a dedicated fund. But we require an RDP spending report by February 15th. And that's just to tell us, that's to report what you have spent the prior year. We need to track the spending. And one thing I'll add, and I know will talk a little bit about this, is we're not seeing the kind of spending that we were hoping to see. The whole idea is to provide funding to allow municipalities to reinvest in their programs to earn more points. And, while we did take away a few points, we took away some points, as you'll see as many of you know, and you'll see more about it when Will presents. We've added a lot of categories under some of the criteria that we hope that, where you lose points, you'll be able to gain points. And yeah, so no, it's not, you do not have to spend by February 15th. We just hope that more monies are getting reinvested in programs to help enable you to earn more points.
We had a couple more questions come in, but I think probably will be able to address them. So I think we're ready to move on.
Okay, so do we want to take a break? Maybe come back at 10:55? Hello? What's the consensus?
Nobody is saying anything, but people now they're saying keep going.
Oh, let's just,
Plow through.
Plow through.
Todd, are you there? Can you hear me okay, Todd?
We
yep,
can hear
I
you.
can hear you.
Oh,
Your
okay.
presentation's up, ready to go.
Gotcha, thank you. Hello, everyone. Glad to be here. My name is Wilma. I manage the Recycling Dividends Program and Small Scale Initiative. This is one of the most exciting programs we have, and also one of the most complex as well. So I'm really privileged, to be managing this program. I started with the waste reduction branch a little over a year ago. So thank you, Janine and Kathy, for laying the groundwork, and we'll proceed now by, talking about the criteria and the changes that we've made. And I will focus on the red, anything that is highlighted in red. That's what I will be talking about, because the details of everything in the grant will be in the grant guidelines. So Todd, can you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So for the solid waste reduction, category, again, I'll be focusing on the changes highlighted in red. Everything else is the same in the grant guideline. Full pay as you throw was 4 points, and modified pay as you throw, with excess tax stickers was 3 points. Now they are both 5 and 4 points respectively. As you can see, we eliminated the 64-gallon trash limit as it didn't make any difference, as was illustrated by the chart that Janine presented before. Next slide, please. Source separated organics. The only one new addition that we made to this category is the organics collection vendor, selected through a procurement process. Everything else is the same. Can we move to the next slide? Thank you. As you can see, for bulky collection, you get 1 point by collecting up to 4 items per year at no charge. So we decided to add this one to address illegal dumping, then charge subsequently. This must be posted on the municipal website and easily accessible by residents. But this will be good for us during our evaluation. Make sure that everything we are looking at it from the resident's perspective. Next slide, please. Reuse programs. So we have enhanced a few of the options under this category, as you may have seen. Reducing the number of repair events and zero waste days needed to earn a point, and are providing an additional point for holding numerous events. So based upon the reduced action plan, we have added 3 additional options under this criteria. But for now, as you may have noticed, repair events now, you can earn a point for just having 1 event per year. In 3 events, you have 2 points. For zero waste days, the same. So there's that flexibility also, and this will also help smaller munis that don't have the capacity to host multiple events. Next point, please. Next slide, thank you. We also use municipalities building permit require deconstruction, reuse, and or source reduction of construction and demolition waste in the residential and or commercial sector. So when it comes to pilot program, we'll consider those ones, by case. Also, another category that we added that, a municipality has adopted and enforces regulation banning single use in favor of reusable food waste system for at least 2 items. And then for a point, develop a comprehensive reuse guide and distribute to all residents and businesses. So for this one, I know, some folks might be thinking, okay, so what items should we ban in favor of reusable foodware? So I just, just at the top of my head, you can think about plastic straws, styrofoam, plastic water bottles as an example for compostable glass containers and reusable water bottles. Next slide, please. Thanks. So for yard waste, no changes to this criterion. But again, this should be posted and clearly visible on the municipal website. It's very important during our evaluation. Next slide, please. So for household hazardous waste, no major changes with this criterion. We'll allow mobile pickup events to qualify last year. That's what we did, and we'll continue moving forward. We do intend to simplify the eligibility requirements, but do not have the specific details as of yet. Next slide. Center for Hard to Recycle Materials, SHAM. So as I mentioned, we added fire extinguishers and 20-pound propane tank, count as one item. No longer need to collect 1-pound propane tanks. And also, just to let folks know that carpet and styrofoam no longer qualify. Christmas lights, shredded paper, marine wrap, and all agricultural wrap collection. If you do that once a year at an alternative location, that will also qualify as an item or items. Next slide, please. So this adopted comprehensive hauler regulation and enforced residential curbside recycling have been combined into curbside recycling regulation. So here is the part included in red. You need to adopted MassDEP's model. We have a whole template for that you can use. And then we also will need adopted comprehensive hauler regulations that require haulers provide recycling to all generators, residential and commercial, as bundled service. And mandatory recycling is required of all generators. That's what one point. And for the enforced, comprehensive hauler regulations that require haulers provide recycling to all generators, residential and commercial, as bundled service. Mandatory recycling, again, is required of all generators. So in principles, there need to be a recycling regulation, bylaw, or written policy in place. Next slide, please. For outreach and education, there's been no change, has been made to this criteria. So again, for those who are new, the details will be found on the grant guideline. So next slide, please. Access to municipal recycling center. As nothing also has changed to this criterion. So everything remains the same. Next slide, please. So this is a new criterion this year, and it has the longest name of any criterion we have had in our RDP program. Recycling outreach and or access for English language learners and or low-income residents. So we added this to increase awareness and recycling access to underserved areas. As you can see on the slide, it's reduced or subsidized PET bag or stickers fees for low income or other hardship. Then if you distribute stuff in multilingual languages, it also qualifies. Send multilingual materials to property managers for multifamily homes, condo complexes. That is also huge. We appreciate that. And even the signage as well, if you can use multilingual languages, that is also something, it's an incentive. Next slide, please. So I know this is a lot, but we are excited about this new category to reach underserved communities. So you can also use multilingual guides for handling HAW properly available to website or send as mailer. It's a lot of information. Host multilingual webinar on social media, live stream, cable TV. this, you will get all this. I wouldn't read everything to you, but you can find the details in the guideline. And I want to say that, you know, as always, I'll always be available outside this webinar if needed, you know, and just to reiterate that all these changes is to make your program better. And I have to say, we are most excited about this new category that we've included. It's really going to say a lot, since this is something that we care deeply about at MassDEP. Next slide, please. So with the upcoming textile waste ban, as somebody mentioned, you know, in the chat, that will take effect on November 1st, 2022. We have increased the required activities from 5 to 7. This will help increase awareness of the ban and diversion of textile from the waste stream. So there will not be a textile webinar, so the activity will no longer be an option. So we increase the textile recovery activity from 5 to 7. Next slide. Oh, this was the most anticipated, but the revised approved spending, I want to say it's almost ready. We're in the last minute of the revision, so we'll be sending it out tomorrow. It wasn't ready for prime time. This was like, I was looking forward to, you know, sharing this today, but just so you know, municipalities, you know, will be allowed only one additional request outside of this approved spending sheet per calendar year once, you know, we send that revised approved spending sheet out. So with that, yeah, next slide. Available for, you know, questions, comments, and you have all our contacts, you know. The final slide has all our contact. Next slide, Todd. Thank you.
Okay, well, I've got a lot of questions. And I think it's a lot of questions like, why do we the way that we think? So the first question was, when will the new grant requirements be available? And when are the guidelines coming out, Will?
It's in the most likely in the spring of, you know, next.
No,
But I'll defer
actually-
to Janine.
Yeah, thank you. I am in the process of working on the grant guidelines now, focusing on the RDP section and hoping to get them out before the beginning of the year.
Oh, it's fantastic. And then also, I just want to reiterate,
Thank you, Janine.
Yep.
Janine worksheet, RDP worksheet in the chat, or Todd did, so you can check that out. It's like the crib notes for RDP points. Let's see.
Yeah,
People
thank
are
you.
talking-
Thank you.
People are talking about stacking points, so can we talk about this? So it said, oops, somebody did something and I lost where it was. It was like, oh, where did it go?
While you're looking for that, Janice, let me just add that the approved spending sheet will likely not get sent tomorrow, but get sent with the presentation, whenever that happens.
Awesome. Okay, here we go. Reuse. Can you get points for all those things, like 5 total points? So I think they're talking about like, maybe the question is like, we have a maximum point per category. And can you explain how that works? Because people are wondering why they can't stack in a specific category.
Yeah, each criteria has several options and only one option can be selected. And we, of course, consider or hope that you're choosing the category that gives you the most points under each criteria. But I mean, you know, we have a budget that we must stay within, and we've designed a program the best way we can, trying to stay within a budget, giving municipalities many options, or as many options as we think work.
There was a question about schools. Does getting municipal schools to move to reusable foodware account for a point in RDP?
Let's see. No, I can't think of, no, I don't see that that's an option under organics. RDP funding can be spent for that kind of thing, but we do not have a category specific to schools in our RDP program.
Okay. Why does styrofoam no longer qualify in the term?
Styrofoam, we look at styrofoam as, it's a very expensive proposition to recycle styrofoam. It's lightweight. It's, you know, we didn't have really that many municipalities that were claiming it, and styrofoam and carpet, for those reasons, got removed from that list. And we did under CHARM add additional options, or some more creative options, I'd say. We allow plastic film, Christmas lights, which is a new item, and shredding events, or shredding, to not be a required full-time. A one-time collection of all of 3 of those items will qualify towards a CHARM item. And another benefit of selecting one of those 3 items is that the event can be held at an alternative location. So if you have a shredding event held once a year somewhere else in town, that can qualify as an item. That can be a checkbox in the 8 items that you're looking for under CHARM.
So if another municipality has an example of enforcement fee share, Weston has private hauler regulations with fee structures, but no one's actually going out and monitoring the bins of the haulers. So I guess that was just for the crowd. But do we have any examples of enforcement that we can share?
For comprehensive hauler regs?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, we have examples of letters, some tickets, you know, tickets that are issued, but you know, we have more information as it pertains to you know, a contracted hauler working with the town, or recycling coordinator, or enforcement coordinator. But we do have some documents that can help with comprehensive hauler regulation enforcement.
Okay, so can somebody put a link to that in the chat, please? Because I think there was a lot of questions about monitoring that. And so I would say that we have a website with private hauler regulation information on it, and she will put the link in there, and you can find more answers to your questions. Yeah.
And that's why we also like really emphasize on having a policy or bylaw on an ordinance, so that once you have that, it's different from having like a job description that says that this is what you're supposed to be doing.
Okay, so it's a good question for you, Will. Town of Bolton has a styrofoam recycling event scheduled for January 8th. Can I still use RDP funds to pay for the hauling of this material?
When is it scheduled?
January 8th.
Yeah, because you know what, those are funds. Yes, let's just say yes for that, because you know, technically styrofoam doesn't come off the list until next spring.
And I'm not sure if Leslie can answer this in the chat, but somebody else asked, can anyone go to the Bolton event? So I want to see, we have so much desire for these styrofoam collection events. So if you allow non-residents, please share. So then there was a question about the outreach category. It's I hope, or a statement. I hope someday DEP will give more points to the outreach category. This requires a lot of programming for 1 point. Remember that my small town only earns $350 for a point. So I guess this is really a question about, you know, big town, small town resources, and how we kind of think about those things.
Yeah, I mean, I feel their pain. I mean, I know the smaller towns, 350, 600. You know, and the thoughts behind that when RDP was first designed is that there are less households. So the cost would be less, but you know, that may not necessarily be the case with some things. And it is something that we have started discussions about, but with the limited funding we have, this is what we have to offer this year. But it's definitely something that we have looked at and we'll continue to discuss in the future.
Then there was a question about DP defining low income. These are great options, but for a town to evaluate a resident's income and confirm it is accurate takes a lot of effort. But I think the definition of low income comes from like the state, right? They don't have to, there's nothing on the town municipalities end for determining whether they meet that, right?
Well, this would be a municipal program, and if the municipality is offering, discounts to low-income individuals, that would be whatever program they have in place.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like if they were putting on an incentive or, a discount to low-income people, then they make that rule themselves. Okay. Let's see. Okay, I don't understand limiting the RDP spending options outside the regular list. My towns struggle to spend their funds. So when an unexpected repair or improvement comes up at their facility, it would be great to ask permission to spend RDP funds or greatly expand the current list. My towns can only buy so many bins for their small populations.
Okay, Will, do you want to answer that one or?
Yes. Thank you, Janine, and for doing a lot of the heavy lifting of those questions. Yeah, so I think this is already something that we've already included in this revised version of the RDP spending. So, and again, I mentioned that because I didn't want to get ahead of myself, but I also mentioned that in addition to the revised approved spending sheet that we've added a few more options, municipality will be allowed to still ask one additional request per calendar year. So there will still be room, if they cannot find something on that sheet, I'm open to those conversations.
And can I add that we do have an extensive list of approved spending, more than just recycle bins. We have equipment, we have transfer station improvements, fencing, cameras, security cameras, recycling processing for processing over $50. We do have a pretty extensive list, and last year we were bombarded with really kind of some good requests. We ended up adding them to the list, but some that just required a lot of extensive research. Have we approved that before? And it's just very time consuming to research these kind of off the list type requirements. And we feel that our list, it's 2 pages, and we increased it from 1 to 2 pages, and we feel it's pretty extensive, and it has the kind of things that we have in mind. We do change that list periodically. It doesn't always go with the grant round. So, when we do get these one-time requests, if we feel it's something that should be added, we do add it. But for last year we really were bombarded with hundreds.
Oh, more than that.
Yeah.
I think the main takeaway here is please read the list. Please read the list.
Yeah, read the list. A lot of times the questions that we receive are items that are on the list.
Yes.
So thank you, Janice.
Thank you, Janice.
Yeah, good suggestion.
I can remember a few dozen requests that I will send the sheet back and circle what they're asking for. That it's right there. Put an arrow there. So thank you.
So this is a clarifying question. Are 1-pound propane tanks no longer considered a charm approved material?
No, they're considered a charm material, but we're not requiring they be collected along with the 20 pounds and the fire extinguishers in order to qualify as a point. Just because we were finding that they were very hard to, it was very hard to find vendors that took the 1 pound tanks. And a lot of municipalities, while they collected fire extinguishers and 20 pound tanks, they weren't collecting the 1 pound because they had no outlets. So we allow the 20 pound and the fire extinguishers to count as an item, but 1 pound will still be a charm item.
Here's another clarifying question about charms. So a charm doesn't have to be all at the same time. That's much easier for munis without the space to hold a large charm event. Is that correct?
No, the whole idea behind a charm is to have everything a one-stop location.
Oh, okay. So I wonder if Alicia Hunt, if you want to write again about maybe what you how you were interpreting that. I'm wondering if it's because we have the thing about those one-time collections for like the string lights and all that.
Yeah, I was just going to say there is an exception for the 3 items: plastic film, whether it be marine boat wrap or agricultural bags, and plastic bags from grocery stores, separate shredding events, Christmas lights. Those 3 items, they can qualify as an item in charm, even if they're held once a year at an alternative location.
Just to put a plug in for Recycle Smart MA, if you guys haven't looked at it, please do. It's a very good resource. But one of the questions I get a lot about is shredded paper and whether shredded paper is recyclable curbside or not. And the answer is no, because it doesn't get sorted properly at the MRF, Materials Recovery Facility. It just ends up like being confetti there. So we always stress take it to a shredding event, which is kind of, it's a desirable event. So having a shredding event is a real good outlet for people who would rather put their stuff in the recycling bin. They want an outlet for it. So I just want to put a plug in RSMA, follow us on Twitter and Facebook and all that. Where can we get the details? Oh, where can we get the details for textile requirements and education? Worksheet just says 7 items.
Okay. The revised worksheet only shows this. Are you talking about the slide or the actual handout?
It just says worksheet, just says 7 items.
Okay, all right, I'll take another look at that. Whatever the textile activities that were referenced in last year's grant guidelines will remain, with the exception of the webinar. We're no longer holding the webinar. We've held it for 7 years. And it's, Ann McGovern put on this webinar to talk about ways to recover textiles. And that is still on our website if you want to watch it, just for the information, but it's just not going to qualify anymore as an item.
There are 13, activities. So we just, change it from 5 to 7. So you could pick 5, but now, so there's a lot of options.
Great. So here's a question, and I think we would be happy to help. Can DP help with regionalization initiatives for RDP, even if we are not technically fully regionalized? And I would say, reach out to your municipal assistance coordinator. I think we're always happy to regionalize where possible. Speaking as a municipal assistance coordinator, I feel like I can speak for the rest of us. Can we use RDP points to pay for the shredding company for this service? If we had it at our Earth Day event in town, they can be pricey, but that would get us a point, right? Question mark. Anyone have any shredders they recommend?
Yeah, it's in the revised approved spending sheet.
Great. So Joanna, you might want to be in touch with your municipal assistance coordinator, and she or he can help you find other towns in the region that may have a good shredder they recommend. Arlington has a great partnership with our local hardware stores to have fluorescent bulbs brought there 7 days a week. Then our contractor picks them up. Can we include this in our charm equation?
Hey, Janice.
Yes.
Yeah, just, the fact that I said that, I hope it will make it after the last revision. So if I say this in the approved spending sheet, and it's going through this last minute revision. My hope is that it's going to make it through.
You're talking about the shredding.
Yes.
The next question is from Arlington, and it's about fluorescent bulbs. And she says, fluorescent bulbs are collected at the local hardware stores 7 days a week, and then their contractor picks them up. Can Arlington include this in their charm equation? Would this count as a charm, like to get them to the charm point?
No, I'm sorry, no. We look at items collected at the municipally sponsored charm. And the same goes with plastic bags. Directing residents to the grocery store for plastic bags does not qualify under charm.
Okay. So this, I'm not sure if okay, so we change our recycling solid waste website frequently to feature new items and keep it fresh. How do we make sure we document our charm points besides listing the source we use for recycling this item? I'm guessing it's for the QA/QC when they apply for RDP points. How do they document that they collected a thing when they're always, updating their site?
If I understand the question correctly, on the RDP application, we ask for what items are collected. We ask where the material is sent, who's the vendor that they're using. And on the recycling and solid waste survey that is filed, before that, hopefully submitted by February 15th, towards the end of the survey, we ask for how many collection opportunities residents have for all kinds of materials, mercury, items, all kinds of items. Sorry, I'm going blank.
And it has to be on the website too. So usually during the evaluation, we also go on the website to verify this information. It's not just what they write down, it's also what we verify on the website.
Right. And as a person that verifies this stuff on the website, I just want to reiterate what Will just said. And I think Kathy mentioned it too. If when we're looking for this information, it's not easy for us to find, then we don't think it's probably easy for residents to find. So keep that in mind, like it should be prominent, like the information needs to be very easily and readily available. Have you considered, Will, giving credit for communities who have active groups like Buy Nothing or Free Cycle to promote reuse?
We did talk about that, but it did not make the final cut. We added a lot to our reuse section based upon the reduce reuse action plan. And we did add many items, as you could see from Will's slides, but that was one that did not make the final cut.
Then there was some questions about swap shops, and they wanted to know more about permanent indoor swap sites and recommended that we do a webinar. I think we had a webinar about that, and it might be on the reuse site. If anybody knows, I think there might be one that we can refer you to.
We have a web page.
We don't have a specific, webinar on swap shop, but the last webinar that we did, it included, swap shop.
I'm just reading through here. There's some just information about stuff that we've already talked about. Information be sent to, yes. Presentation and recording of the webinar will be sent, yes. Just to clarify. Okay, so just to clarify, are the 3 take-back items you mentioned, plastic film, string lights, and shredding, considered one item or 3 separate items in the category for the points?
Be separate.
So you have to have each of those to qualify for that.
If you have shredding done once a year at an alternative location, that counts as one. String lights collected at an alternative location or at your charm, that counts as two. It only has to be once a year is what we're saying.
Coastal communities are impacted with marine wrap. Are there DEP mandates already on the books to govern the disposal? No, I
No,
don't think so.
no, there are not.
Will there be discussion on new mattress mandate to give munis a chance to comment? I mean, I think we already did extensive comment periods before this.
Yeah, and they will continue, but we have had, you know, John Fisher has conducted presentations through the SWAC committee, SWAC group. And then wasn't there a presentation a couple of weeks ago to the general audience, Is that available? Can we put the link to that in the chat?
Yes, it's actually it's on our Reduce, Reuse, Recycle Palooza playlist.
Oh,
on
yeah,
YouTube. I
Yep.
can't get to it real quick, but if Kathy, if you have the link to that handy, that'd be helpful. That's it. That's all I got for questions right now.
Wow. Wow, okay. That was, we got done pretty quickly. Let's see. Thank you, Kathy, for including the link to Recycle Palooza. Are there are no more questions? We're here.
Yeah, if anybody does have any questions and you want to unmute yourself, just feel free to do that. Now's the time to ask.
Thank you, Brooke, for the swap shop. I was looking for that. Okay, great. Brooke put a link in the chat box on swap shop info on the DEP website. And I'll let you all know when we distribute this recording along with the approved spending list, I will make a change to the RDP worksheet and add the textile items. Again, it's the same items that were listed last year on last year's grant guidelines with the exception of the webinar, but for convenience, I'll add them.
So Juanita said, I think the application deadline on the grant guidance on the website is incorrect. It says July 14th, 2021. Shouldn't this be 2022? And
That's still last year's.
Yeah. It hasn't been updated yet.
That's last year's grant guidelines. We haven't, we haven't announced the spring of 2022 grants as of yet. This meeting was just to kind of give a look at what the changes were to RDP and small scale. But again, the spring grant won't be announced until March and available for submitting applications in April. So we're working on getting the grant guidelines, in particular the RDP section, because there are so many changes out to you all ASAP, but they're just not ready as of yet.
And it looks like Wayne has a question from Swampscott. Wayne, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Hi, Wayne.
Still muted if you try to talk, Wayne.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, it was my microphone setting. Sorry about that. I was talking as everyone was looking. Okay, never mind. So question regarding actually an earlier question that I posted, and it was just a quick clarification. We're a new SWAC here in town, and we're trying to do as much as we can to get all the points. And so one of the new things about the buy recycle policy kind of hit me. I'm not sure. I really have to investigate whether or not we have a policy, but is that a requirement to get any RDPs, or is that just a piece of one of the line items to get a particular set of RDPs? Because it was at the opening of the entire presentation. That's where it kind of threw me off.
I'll take this one. Having a buy recycle policy in place and notifying town departments or municipal departments of the policy by the chief executive officer is a requirement of all of our SMRP grants. all
Okay.
of our sustainable material recovery program grants require that a buy recycle policy be in place and that policy be distributed so the town and municipal departments are aware of it.
So is that for every time that we actually apply for a grant, we then have to prove on an annual basis that that has been done on a annual repeated level?
You got it.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's helpful.
exactly
Thank you.
what it is. Thank you,
Okay.
Wayne.
Tessa has her hand up.
I see a question from Marilyn Russell about recycling dividends spending request. Can everybody hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, sorry. She's asking about using RDP funds for repair of equipment, and yes, most certainly.
Yes.
We allow RDP funds for refurbishing equipment, for repairs of equipment. I mean, reuse is what we're all about, so yes.
Okay, I think Tessa was gonna ask a question. She's got her hand up.
Thank you. Hi, I wondered, since we don't have funds yet and that we're just learning about this possibility for hardship payments, if I put I wrote in the notes, if I put a statement on our website that said, please let us know if you have a financial hardship to pay your HHW disposal fees, there may be donated funds available. Would that qualify for that, what you were asking about hardship payments for household hazardous waste?
Okay, there may be donated payments. Is that so the town wouldn't offer the reduction? It would have to be from donations? Is that what you're saying?
There's a possibility the town could, but because it's the collaborative group, there have been people who have offered to pay money ahead to or to pay for somebody else, and I could set aside those funds for then when people ask, they could be applied towards, because a number of people have offered this, towards somebody who's having difficulties.
Right. Okay, you know what, Tessa, we're still working out the details of some of the new criteria. Could you shoot me an email and explain that to me? And that is something that we will look into.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that would just even be like part of outreach, since we talked about having all these different ways, outlets to pass this information. If we can, embellish it maybe in different languages too, maybe, I mean, in some, like the people that will be able to like get that information, I'm sure that would make.
Yes. Okay, so that would hit both those, what you're asking about, have those that have financial hardship, and then also put it in a language. How many different languages are you requiring?
It all depends on your municipalities, like.
Yes. That makes sense. Yes, that's what I was thinking about, Googling what the predominant languages for our area. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and remember, Recycle Smart has outreach material in several different languages.
Wayne's got his hand up again. Go ahead, Wayne.
Hi, thank you. So one more question for you. So I think at the municipal level, it's not as well known or recognized that this is in response to the wet and frozen paper comment here, that water absorption in paper, particularly in recycling, can amount to a much higher measured weight, right? In other words, if it's left out overnight, especially at the residential pickup level, is there any program that would incentivize us to, maybe I'm going on a limb here, incentivize us to be able to give covered bins, right? To incentivize giving covered recycling bins. Is there anything within the rewards program?
That would be something that could be purchased with recycling dividend funds.
Right, but I didn't know whether or not, okay, I think I understand what you're saying. In other words, you could, from the other programs, you could use that to purchase it, but the effect of actually having that to reduce the tonnage of recycled paper, right? The measured tonnage of recycled paper is in itself not an incentive, correct?
No, maybe for the town, but not through the RDP program.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So somebody asked about Recycle Smart Material. Will we be expanding the number of languages, specifically Hindi? I think the answer is yes for Hindi, but we have to find translators here at MassDEP to translate into Hindi. So it's on the list. But Kathy Dudoff might have more info, maybe not.
No, yeah, we're always open to expanding it to have more translations in the future. Right now, the ones that we have were just based on state data of what the most common languages in the state are. But I am adding Hindi to the list, and we're hoping to have some time to get these translated and, you know, check to make sure that it makes sense to everyone. So if anyone has any other suggestions of languages they'd like to see or languages that are predominant in your community, you can always let us know, and we'll add those to the list. So thank you, Christina and Janice.
Yeah, no problem. And I do want to say it takes a long time. It takes longer than you expect to get the translations done, because we want to make sure that they are correct. So that's, yeah, it's we prioritize it though. I mean, it's like a big deal for us. We want this information to be accessible to as many people as possible. I don't see any other questions. I don't see anybody else's hands up. I'm going to read Brooke's comment here in the chat. She said, the objective of RDP is to offer a large range of criteria that will result in less waste and more recycling, composting, reuse, and repair. We are a diverse state of rural, urban, and suburban communities. We believe the lengthy criteria list offers enough choices for many different communities. Not all communities are expected to meet each criterion. I just think that's a nice kind of like wrap up of the whole intent.
Yes, thank you, Brooke.
Thank you.
All right, I guess without any further questions, no hands up. We're giving you back a half hour of your day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, for participating. And again, there will be, we will distribute a link to this presentation. I will add the textile activities to the RDP worksheet, and we'll get the revised approved spending sheet out and the grant guidelines for the RDP section as soon as they're completed, where you'll see more detail about each of the criteria, especially the new ones. And we're always available for, if you have any questions, just please feel free to reach out via email.
Thank you.
Thank you.